Okay. Shemai, greetings everyone and welcome to the June 2024 virtual listening session for the California Truth and Healing Council. We haven't had a listening session in a while, so we're looking forward to giving you some updates for those of you who haven't been able to attend our meetings in person, let you know how you can engage with our subcommittees, which are mostly virtual, and how you can continue to engage in person with this process before the report that is issued next year. My name is Christina Snider-Ashtari. I'm a Hilakauna and Makamo, and a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians, and I serve as the Tribal Affairs Secretary for Governor Gavin Newsom. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the homelands of the Miwok Nation peoples. I'm now going to briefly walk through some of the logistics for today's session. First, we are recording this session, and it's available for public participation via Zoom and dial-in. The recording and summary notes will be available on the CTHC meeting page and blog when they're ready. For those interested in following the council, ongoing updates, including listening session recordings and the listening session summary documents, are available at the California Truth and Healing Council updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. If you've not already done so, we'd appreciate if you could update your name to let us know who's joining today. And as we get into the discussion portion of today's session, we'd appreciate it if those who are comfortable could go on camera so that we can have a more kind of community feeling in this space. We're going to start our listening session with some principles and also have some centering in this space from a healer. And then we'll go into brief introductions of those of you who joined us. And then, as always, we'll dive into a quick overview to get everyone up to speed on recent updates. And then we'll go into the listening and discussion portion of today's convening. If you'd like to speak at any point, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. If you're using the Zoom app, you should be able to raise your hand using the app controls, but you can also use Alt-Y in Windows or Option-Y on Mac to raise or lower your hand. If you've dialed in, you should be able to raise your hand by pressing *9. You can also email written comments to info@catruthandhealing.com at your convenience. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to go very quickly into the the principles for respectful engagement before all of you introduce yourself. So we'll go very quickly, and I'll share my screen. Am I hearing a puppy?
Yes, you do. Oh, sorry. She's a year old. She's got a lot to say.
That is all fine. We've got a puppy who's about 15 weeks now, so we're getting used to the puppy energy.
She wants to play with this other doggy that's getting like me. She's a bit old and probably aches in the joints. So the young one doesn't quite understand that. So she's talking to her and saying, come on. So anyway, apologize for that if it bothers anybody. But anyway, they have fun. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the puppies with us. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And does that look right, Loretta?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So again, we will be discussing heavy topics today, including inclusive of potentially genocide, colonization, land dispossession, and we will also be discussing resilience, hope, and perseverance. We have contracted with the California Consortium of Urban Indian Health to help provide behavioral health and traditional health services. And so we also have some resources for you at the outset if you are feeling like you need to call someone and talk to someone. They've got a phone, chat, and video service providing national, state, and county resources, referrals, and trauma-informed support for urban, Indian, and tribal populations. You can reach out online at sikui.org/redline, call 1-888-368-4090, or text 916-252-5002. They're standing by Monday through Friday to ensure that that if you reach out or a family member reaches out, there's someone available to you. And you can also reach out to Loretta at her email listed here if you need help finding supportive services. In joining today's convening, you agree to adhere to the following principles for respectful engagement. A copy of the principles in full is available for your use and review at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. Refusal to adhere to these principles, which apply to all participants, including governing council members, staff, subcommittee members, and community members, whether present or not, may result in your removal from today's meeting. In order to create a space where participants feel welcome, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we'll uphold the following principles in all convenings of the council. We ask that all of you work towards sharing in their stewardship as well. If you're a participant in a convening of the council, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. Again, I think the TLDR of this is that we want everybody to feel like they're able to speak openly and not feel like they're going to be personally attacked. We also don't want people who are not here to have to face personal attacks, and really want this to be a space where we can talk about, yes, contentious topics, but also make sure that we are not creating opportunities for lateral violence as well. The other piece that we ask that folks do is in this space, this process is it is for California Native people, but it is necessarily open to everybody. So we ask that as you engage in today's listening session, that you defer to California Native Americans who would like to speak and share their opinions, experiences, and the like, and that particularly elders we would like to defer to. The second piece is if you are engaging in this process from either the press or from a research perspective, we ask that anything that you glean from this process or use or hear from this process, that you commit to obtaining the prior and informed consent of the Native participants that you heard it from. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I can figure out where we go. Okay, and we'll first introduce our council members and staff, and then anyone else who'd like to introduce themselves to the group can do so at this time. We have some exciting things to share with the public at this time. We have a sizzle reel for the documentary that's in process, and a few updates about some of the in-person meetings that we will have throughout the rest of the year for folks who'd like to join. So without further ado, I will hand it over to really quickly. I think we'll have Loretta introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll turn over to our governing council members who are present.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda. I am a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians in Southern California, and currently serve as the Deputy Tribal Affairs Secretary for the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs. Thank you for joining us today. Really looking forward to the discussion. I'm happy to see that we have a pretty large group today, and so I will be taking notes, so I'll probably be looking this way, but I promise I am paying attention, but just taking notes for our records. Thank you.
Thanks, Loretta. And then we'll turn to our council members present, and then we'll turn to our Sakui friends present, and then maybe start first before we introduce folks with the grounding exercise. Okay. Council member Lucas.
Yes, I'm Carmen Lucas, Quimey Indian from Laguna Mountains in San Diego. Happy to be here, happy to listen to what people have to say, and I wish you all a very beautiful day. That's what we're enjoying down here in San Diego. Hope you are as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laurie Gonzalez, councilwoman for the Rincon Band of Luiseño Indians in my 7th term, I think. And I'm glad to see we have such a good turnout. This is a place to speak your truth, to heal. It's a safe place, and we work hard to make it that. And it's an honor to share this time with you.
Thank you, council member. I'm just scanning to see if we've got anyone else from the Truth and Healing Council. I'm not seeing any others, so I will turn to Shante.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shante Grillo, Northern Sierra Miwok from Ione. I'm with the organization Secui, so I help the council connect with healers and behavioral health specialists who can come and give you all some emotional and spiritual support during the meetings. And yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. And I believe Kiana has joined us to help us with a grounding exercise at the top. So we'll hand it over to you, Kiana.
You. Manahood Huyaga. My name's Kiana Malay. I'm from the Lone Pine Paiute Shoshone tribe. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with Ichido, which is my private practice. And to get started, I like to just invite everyone to get comfortable, whatever that means to you. So, it might mean closing your eyes if you feel safe to do so, or sometimes it's finding just a focal point in front of you. Believe it or not, the different focal points bring different sensors to us. So if, whatever's comfortable for you, place your feet firmly on the ground, connected to closer to the earth, or maybe tucked up under your legs, giving them a little hug. Whatever works best for you. I invite you to rest your hands or even your head in a way that brings you comfort and calmness, the best that you can. Take a deep breath in through your nose. 1, 2, and gently exhale through your mouth. As we sit in our comfortable space, I invite you to bring your awareness to your breath as you continue to take those deep breaths. Feel the natural rhythm of your breath, the rise and the fall of your chest, the coolness as you inhale, and the warmth as you exhale. Just notice the sensations in your nose, in your mouth, and throughout your body as you bring in that breath. I invite you to now shift your focus to other sensations in your body. You might feel the points of contact between your body and the surface beneath you. Just noticing the weight of your body being supported. I invite you to become aware of the sensations in your hands. You might feel warmth or tingling, maybe a subtle vibration if there's any tension or discomfort in your body. Just bring your attention to it. On an exhale, release that tension and let it throw through your body and just send it out into the universe away from you. Inhale a sense of calm and relaxation. And exhale any stress or discomfort you might be feeling. Now I invite you to shift your focus to the sounds around you. You might notice the gentle hum of a fan if you're in a nice warm day, or the sound of the fans in your computer. Just notice what's around you without judgment. Just observe the sounds as they come and they go. As you continue to breathe, just take a minute and imagine our ancestors, our relatives. They're watching us. They're standing behind us, or maybe by our sides. Imagine them gazing at you proudly, sending their love, sending their strength, filling your heart and lifting your spirit. I welcome you to visualize these relatives from all of the generations before us, anchoring you as the roots that you grow from. The roots that provided generations and generations of strength and resilience. Feel that connection and how it's grounding you in the present moment. With each breath, imagine drawing in the strength and support from these roots. Feel this energy rising through your body and giving you a sense of stability and strength. Let this energy fill you from the base of your spine to the top of your head. I invite you to take some time to express gratitude for this present moment, for all of us gathered here today, for the water that sustains us, for the air that we breathe, for the earth that grounds us. When you're ready, I invite you to gently open your eyes if they were closed, or just bring awareness to bring you back to the present moment. Take a moment to just notice what feels grounded and centered in you as we move forward with this meeting. Right. You can stretch it out if you need to. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I never know how much I need that until we go through it. And then on the other side of it, just feel completely different and ready to engage again. So thank you so much. And Kiana will be here as folks, if people want to kind of reach out and just need to be grounded again in this space. Also, just noting it's the solstice, so happy solstice, everybody. And at this point in time, we'll have everybody who'd like to introduce themselves to the group introduce themselves. And if there's anything that's on your heart, you can share it now. Otherwise, we'll go, we'll show you the documentary sizzle reel. We'll go through some of the updates, and then we can have some time to talk through anything that you wanted to share and that you brought with you at that time as well. I think at this point, folks can jump in as they'd like to introduce themselves, and there's no pressure to introduce yourself, but really just, if you're feeling like making yourself known, please go for it. And then if you would prefer to introduce yourself in the chat, you can do so as well. Noting we have a couple of links in the chat that I mentioned at the front end of this conversation. And if folks are more comfortable putting stuff in the chat, please feel free to do so at this time.
Don't go all go at once now.
I was giving it a period of time to see if anyone would feel uncomfortable enough to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Gabriel Rourke. I'm an assistant tribal liaison at the California Energy Commission. My first listening session today, and grateful to be sharing this space and time with you.
Thank you, Gabriel, for being here.
Good to see you, Carmen.
Nice seeing you as well.
I guess I'll follow Gabriel. I'm Holly Kasai. I'm also with the Energy Commission, here to listen and bring love to the gathering. Thank you.
Good for you as well. So thank you for being here.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Wyatt. I'm White Mountain Apache from Arizona. I work at the California Consortium for Urban Indian Health as well, and has been doing work in community since I've been in high school. I'm really happy to be here today and really happy to be sharing space with you all and contribute in any way that I can. Thank you.
Got a couple of introductions in the chat as well. Okay, well, if anyone else would like to jump in, feel free to do so, but no pressure. And we know several folks are probably here to get some updates, see where things are at, see where things are going, see how you can engage in the future. And that's kind of what this is for. So we will jump right in. I am going to start with, do you think this is a real first, Loretta?
Yeah.
Or should I go over what the council is for folks who are new to this space?
Maybe going over just what the council is and then the sizzle reel would be good.
Right. Okay, I'm going to do that then. Okay.
And you're good.
Right. So just so that people know what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about our CTHC documentary project. I've flipped that because for those of you who are new to this process and kind of just want to know what it is, we'll go over what the council is, what its charge is, and then we'll go into the documentary project and then talk about some of the future regional meetings and hearings in case you would like to engage in future. So what is the California Truth and Healing Council? It's a California Native American-led initiative that aims to clarify the historical record of the relationship between the state and California Native Americans by bearing witness to, recording, examining existing documentation of, and receiving California Native narratives in the spirit of truth and healing. Now that's quite a lot, but really what it is that it's, this is a Native-led process where we're shifting what we focus on in California history. So instead of saying, gold was discovered and then a bunch of people came here, we talk about there were a bunch of people here and then a lot of things happened to us, and that there's this different lens of history, and we need to be more inclusive of the first people of this state, and talk about it in a different way if we're going to tell the whole truth of how we got here. Part of that is going to be listening to people's recollections and experiences. Part of that is going to be pulling out recollections and experiences that haven't been daylighted or haven't been highlighted to this point. And then part of that is also going to be hearing about what could be done that could be done better. So the council is going to submit a final written report of findings to the governor's office by 2025. We're actually aiming to publish this September 2025 on the 175th anniversary of the state. We think that will be good timing and will give us a bit of time to kind of vet and workshop things with the public. Once the governing council has kind of pieced together what that kind of draft report looks like. And then part of the report should reflect a holistic understanding of the historical relationship between California Native Americans and the state. And then it can also make remedial recommendations and consider how to prevent similar depredations or policies in the future. So again, shifting that narrative, shifting that focus of how we talk about the history of the state of California and how we talk about California Native Americans. And also, again, having recommendations, which can be policies, funding, actions that are historical, can address some of these historical injustices, whether it's return of land, whether it's increased funding, whether it's increased opportunity. So why now? So we've got a history where California funded, legislated, and supported the wholesale removal and genocide of California Native peoples. 92% of the California Native population died as a result. Those who remained did everything they could to survive, and California Native people are still here. California Native people still suffer from major land loss, lack of basic infrastructure, decimation of waters, and barriers to community and lifeways. And California Native peoples continue to lack visibility, acknowledgement, and spaces to make meaningful changes for our communities. So I'm going to pause this while we sorry, I have 3 screens while I show you the sizzle reel because I think it'll make sense now in the context of what we've just been talking about.
I emailed you the link, so it should be at the top.
I've got it open.
Okay.
I just need to make sure that my my audio is sharing too, so. Okay. Jump in if it's not playing right after I play it.
Okay.
Three-quarters of my graduating class isn't alive today.
It was normal to experience intense loss. We had friends who were dying by suicide.
Those come from systemic problems in our society that stem from genocide. There's not a person in California who hasn't benefited from the genocide of our people.
During 1860, California passed a law that said you can go out and shoot any native people in California.
There were some children forcibly removed to go to boarding schools at age 3.
Not only were these children made indentured slaves, but they probably got to watch their mothers killed.
We talk about historical trauma, but there's present trauma right now.
I'm sorry on behalf of the state of California.
Governor Newsom is apologizing to Native Americans and announced the formation of a new commission called the Truth and Healing Council.
What can you do to make this be different, community-driven, meaningful, and actually work in California?
We go above and beyond our job description to make sure this is done right.
Part of it is this truth-telling. It's an opportunity to tell our story and for state government to listen and then take some accountability.
Acknowledging that you're on our land without returning that land to indigenous peoples shows that you're doing very little to put your money where your mouth is at times.
Look what we've done to the land, and if we can go back to some of those traditional ecological ways, the land gets healed and we get healed.
I think I'm looking for ways that we can inspire direct action, especially around what it has meant to be the survivors of an attempted genocide.
I came here when I was 10 years old in 1950. I was sent here not because of my choice.
So all of the buildings that have the rock were built by the students.
Yeah, the stone buildings are a beautiful thing, but is that really what we want to romanticize? These kids were kind of forced labor.
Took the wash rag and they just washed their face real hard, and they wanted to wash away the Indian or something.
Was the government's intention to eradicate our culture?
And of course, all the girls that went to Sherman too came back sterilized.
But Grandma would say that. She would say, oh yeah, when I left the hospital, they told me that Dickie ruined me. It's the only one I'll ever have.
I think for very long in this state, we have been really invisible, meaning the tribes. And I think they have worked to overcome that, and that's not an easy task.
I made the choice to do something that probably is slower going, but I'm hopeful will produce bigger results and bigger change and bigger ongoing healing.
One of my employees came up to me and told me that we were just hiking up in Lake Tahoe and we saw a sign, but it said, "This is where Washoe people used to be." And I was like, well, we're still here.
I get chills every time we watch that. It's so we partnered with a documentarian to capture the process. And that is kind of a snapshot of what the full feature-length film will be. And basically, he is accompanying us as we go throughout the state in these quarterly meetings, listening to different tribes, different communities talk about their histories, their stories. It's not all, just California killed everybody. A lot of it is stories of hope, stories of how our communities have come together, have healed, have created space, and what we'd like to see in the future for our future generations. And so we've got footage from other spots of the state that I think there's thousands of hours of footage at this point. And so he'll be coming with us to our next few locations as well, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But really what we're hoping to do is have this documentary be in alignment with the recommendations and the report that will come out next year, so that we can create both, that physical document that will, speak to, if I'm working in the legislature, what can I do? But also have this human element where we're hearing from Native people in our own voices what it is that we'd like to see out of this process, where is our pain, and also, who are we as people, because we don't all look the same and we don't all think the same, and we all have different ideas about how this needs to move forward. So really hoping to have that be expressed in this living kind of space. You want to add anything, Loretta, on that?
I think the only thing I'll add about the documentary piece is this is something that we're actively fundraising for, and have intentionally not asked tribes to fund because we want this documentary to be supported by folks that have benefited from land dispossession and the genocide of California Native people. And so we are actively doing that, which is completely separate from the Truth and Healing Council budget in itself. And so this is a separate kind of on its own initiative that we're looking at just, capturing this whole process, like recording it and hearing those Native stories from the people themselves. And it could also be an educational tool for just the wider public, because we recognize that not everyone's going to sit down and open a report, but you might watch a documentary, and that brings that human element to this entire initiative. And another piece of education is California. We're a really complicated place. We have a really large Native population, very diverse, and if California can take this on, then any community can. And so, really using this process as a pathway for other communities.
Yeah. So as that hopefully kind of gets edited, launched, everything, we've also been in very preliminary conversations about whether we can have viewing parties at different educational institutions like the UCs and CSUs, so that both the report that accompanies it, but also this documentary can be an educational tool for higher education, where we can plug in really easily, and it can start as a kind of a talking point or a point of conversation. It should ideally capture the diversity of California Native people throughout the state. So once it's complete, you should see something that looks a little bit like you at some point. And so we're just really excited about that project and hope that folks feel like they're seeing themselves in it. I'm going to turn back to how we are doing this and share that screen.
Quick pitch for quarterly meetings.
Yep.
You want to be in the documentary, come to a quarterly meeting.
Okay. So we are telling the full history of California and bringing the Native narrative into the dominant narrative. Ideally, like, you don't grow up in California and don't realize that California Native people exist. Ideally, this process will be iterative because it has to be. There's a lot of work that needs to get done to kind of tackle this history of erasure and displacement and genocide. And so we envision this being like, this report will come out, we'll do some work, everybody will do some work, we'll have another checkpoint in a few years and we'll do more work. And so really right now, it's really about refocusing that narrative, creating visibility for Native people within the broader narrative, and creating a bit more understanding about what it means to have California be, the most diverse and populated place north of Mexico prior to contact, and have almost nobody who's not Native even realize that. making recommendations for remedial actions and meaningful change to address harm. So we have quarterly meetings, we have listening sessions, we have regional hearings, we've got issue area task forces that we don't quite have anymore. We're going to do summits instead. And then we also have subcommittees, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. This is an updated map of the locations that we have planned for this year. The ones that are in gray, the stars and triangles and circles that are in gray are all places that we've been. The places that we're going to go are the ones that are in color, and there's a list in the next slide. So this is an updated list of where we'll be at. We've had to be flexible because in some of the places we were planning on being, there were other meetings that would have made it cost prohibitive for people to come to those meetings because there was no lodging available. So we've had to be a little bit flexible and switch up some of our meeting dates. So we appreciate you're all being flexible with that. We've got our last regional hearing was at Shingle Springs, and it was aligned with their commission on the state of hate. Our next regional hearing will be in Lake and Mendocino counties from July 18th to 20th. You can also grab your phone and scan this QR code to follow us on social media for updates. In August, we'll be in the Eastern Sierra region with a subcommittee meeting the day before the 2-day meetings. Will also be that month. So just noting, we have 2 quarterly meetings because we had to reschedule the one that was going to be this upcoming weekend. So we've rescheduled, and we have an August 2nd and 3rd. Well, 1st through 3rd, and an August 15th through 17th in Santa Barbara County. So 2 things, very different parts of the state. One's very far east, one's very far west, very different conversations, but we hope you can join us for both of those. We'll have regional hearings in LA County again in September. And then in October, we will be up in Modoc County. And I think that's aligned with their boarding school commemoration, Loretta.
Oh, yes.
Great. And that's at Fort Bidwell. There's a boarding school up there that they have a remembrance every year. So we'll be doing something aligned with that. We'll have our last quarterly meeting of the year in Sacramento to kind of bring it back full circle. And that will be November 6th through the 8th. We will have in the fall a week-long series of issue area summits. And so we'll keep you all posted on that. And really the point of those will be to take, each day will have a different issue area. So you don't have to come to the entire week, but it will be the time for folks that haven't been able to engage, but say are an expert in one of the issues can come and make sure that the things that they want to be included in the report are included. So for example, if I am an expert in PL 280 and I want to focus on criminal justice and how that's played out, then I can come to the day where we're thinking about public safety for Native communities. If I'm an expert in gathering, then I'll probably want to come to the Land and Lifeways one. So we'll keep you all posted on that as well.
Can I put the specific dates that for our next upcoming meetings, both regional hearings and quarterly meetings? We have Eventbrite pages. The July one, it's kind of all just clumped together. And so if you want to register on there or just check that page periodically, we will be updating with locations once they are confirmed. So far in July, we will be hosted by the Sherwood Band of Pomo Indians and Round Valley Indian Tribes. And so to be determined on July 20th, but we will update our social media and our meeting page as soon as we have those confirmations.
Loretta. And so how are we doing this? So like I mentioned, we'll have summits for issue areas. Each issue area will have each issue area will have a specific focus in this report, but will be broken up into a bunch of different ways. So there will be kind of a general focus on culture, but with a lot of subs of that. So what does that mean? For example, cultural resource protection, but also expression of culture, a few other things that we've listed out somewhere else that I don't have in front of me. But also, in addition, each council subcommittee will have a subchapter of these issue areas. So, for example, when we talk about education, or we talk about so let's talk about education. So when we apply the status and identity piece to that, how are people who don't have enrollment in a federally recognized tribe potentially not getting the full access to all of the things, all the tools that are available to provide, free access to UCs, provide scholarship funding from the federal government. So what are the things that people who are not in that space, why is it harder? What more needs to be done? How do we get more resources to communities based on that lens? Similarly, when we talk about culture, how is that, how do we need to have a different lens, or how are there unique challenges for urban communities? If you're living in an urban community 200 miles from your ancestral homelands, are you going to be able to get back for a ceremony? Are you going to be able to access your ancestral plants, lands, spiritual practices? And how is that more difficult because you live in an urban community? So just kind of a little bit of an overview of how it works. And this is more of like a visual for folks who think visually. But the subcommittees are ongoing and they're open, and typically they're meeting about once a month. Some are meeting more than that virtually. So if you'd like to join, you can go to the link that's on the screen, or also use the QR code, and you can sign up for one of those subcommittees. And again, you can plug in whenever. I'm going to go through some of the questions we're asking the subcommittees. And even if you don't have the time, but you'd like to engage, you can kind of look at these questions and send them to us, and we can plug them in as well. So we're asking subcommittee members to define their subcommittee's issue or community. So what is the urban community, for example? Like, what does that mean? And all of this is as related to California Native people. So we understand that there are urban Indians who are not California Native people, but the focus of this process is on California Native people. So that's what we're sticking to. So then provide the historical background of your subcommittee's issue or community as related to the state's historical treatment of California Native people. So we can assist with materials, with research as needed. But for example, for an urban committee, how did this giant population of urban Indians come to be? Were people displaced because they had to, they were actually relocated by federal programs? Were they displaced because there was no housing on the reservation, or infrastructure, or jobs, or whatever it is? Were they displaced because of the war and they had to go, and then when they came back, they just stayed in the urban communities? So what is that historical background? And then you'll review the work of those issue areas as well. We've got in process, but like in real process, scholars, California Native scholars putting together those issue area pieces. So each subcommittee will take a look at those chapters as well, and then add in where they think that there needs to be a little bit more attention to their issue as well, or to their subcommittee. Next, in-person regional subcommittees. So these are the in-person alternatives to joining via Zoom. You're welcome to do only Zoom, but we also want to make sure that if people are located near the regions that we're in, that they have an opportunity to meet the other people in that region. We have some folks who've been traveling everywhere with us, and we're totally open to that too, but really are trying to design these opportunities for folks who would like to just chat in person, would like to meet each other and workshop some of these questions together. So the next one will probably be, again, we don't have everything locked down, so some stuff changes, but we'll have one on Thursday, August 1st from 12 to 5 p.m., likely in Bishop, California, and then Thursday, August 15th, from 12 to 5 p.m., likely in San Ynez, California. And we'll typically provide food as well. So here's the specifics that we've been asking as well. So this is for, the urban population, for example. We're asking each subcommittee to submit an order of priority 5 to 10 recommendations to improve conditions for their subcommittee. And if you're having difficulty figuring it out, you can say, well, this is the problem we're trying to deal with, and we can help you figure out what might be a good recommendation. These recommendations will be put into the report as remedial recommendations, and the governing council will take a look at them and make sure that they align with their charge as well. We're also asking just to help flesh out how we're having these chapters written. How have you, your family, or your tribe personally been impacted by this history using the lens of your subcommittee? What is unique about the situation of you and others in your subcommittee that's made programs for tribal nations and communities have little to no impact? You could also talk about the things that have had a good impact that you'd like to see more of. What could be changed about or added to existing programs and opportunities to better accommodate you or others in your subcommittee? And really what we're trying to get at is fashioning equitable recommendations, understanding that all California Native people have different circumstances, have different abilities to access resources that are available. Sometimes resources aren't available. So we're trying to make sure that the remedial recommendations in the report account for some of the unique issues that certain communities face, or where there's really good stuff out there, but people don't know about it, or there's not enough of it. We'd like to make sure that we are amplifying that as well. So I'm going to stop sharing at this time. And Loretta, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in.
I put a link in the chat to sign up for subcommittees. A majority of the subcommittees are meeting virtually. And so if you'd like to sign up, please do so. Next week, our elders subcommittee and youth subcommittee are both meeting. And so we're going along in the process. So please sign up if you're interested.
I'd say too, that we've heard from the elders subcommittee that we need elders to record their stories or get their stories written down. And so if you have elders that you'd like to interview, that you'd like to get their stories, we do have a fleet of iPads that you can use to record those. They don't need to be video if your elder doesn't want to be on video, but you can. We're actually bringing some of them to our in-person meetings. So if there's one in your region that you'd like to attend and just use the equipment, you can either use it and take it with you, or you can use it and submit it to this process, or you can use it and take some of it with you and submit some of it to the process, because we want to make sure that whatever you're submitting is what you're consenting to submit, and not something that we're just taking and it's really not something that you wanted to be public. But to clarify, we know that there are some tribes, there's some individuals who really want that. They want to make sure that they capture that story, that feeling, that record for their people or for their family. And we want to be able to provide those tools for you. So if you'd like to be able to utilize that. We've also talked about if you have elders programs in your area and you'd like to just use our equipment and then send it back to us, we can do that as well, because we're probably not going to be the best people to do those interviews. A lot of times it's going to be family. A lot of times it's going to be people that are trusted in the community. And so again, we're happy to work with you to get those recorded before the launch of the report next September. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to open it up for folks who have comments, questions, feedback, and we will do our best to answer questions as helpful. And if not, we can always follow up as well. I will mention, even though she already said it too, if you'd like to be a part of the documentary project, he's coming with us to the quarterly meetings. And so if you come to the quarterly meetings, there is a chance that you will be in the documentary and might even be featured. So we welcome your participation and attendance in that as well. One other thing I wanted to note for folks who are maybe not aware of it is that there is a new curriculum that was developed with Grayton and with Redbud Resource Group, which is California Native led and operated, that's housed with Smithsonian, and it's about the gold rush's impact on California Native people. So would encourage you all to check that out. And if there's anything that you think is important to include, which there will be, but if there's anything you think would be important to include, to make sure that you send to us that you'd like us to include it. Because again, we don't want to be like creating something that folks don't think is helpful, but if there are good pieces in there, or you think it's a good model for more work to be done, because we know the gold rush had different regional impacts. And so it might be that there's other historical moments that you might want to hear more about, let us know. And Loretta has put the link to that in the chat. Another thing, now that we're sharing, or that I'm sharing, is Grayton has also funded a California Indian filmmakers endowment with Sundance. And that if you are looking into getting into filmmaking, that is a good spot to look as well.
And if you came with anything just on your heart that you wanted to share, please feel free to do that at this time too. It's just open discussion.
Initially, when we started collecting, especially on this slope, there was so much bump that we picked up a lot of things all at once. It was almost like a salvage kind of operation.
Chairwoman, I noticed you came off of mute. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was looking for the little hand raise. I couldn't find it, so.
You're good.
Okay. Well, I did want to say that I've been working on the status and identity subcommittee for quite a while. And I think we've come up with a lot of important information and trying to set goals and things that we'd like to request from the state of California through this, through the Truth and Healing. It's taken a long time, and all of us have different opinions, and it is hard to come to a consensus that and what's the most important. And many of us are just not federally recognized, so that's important. And we have younger people, as stated, wanting education, wanting others' homeland, and also trying to discuss the subject of disenrollment, and the importance of all of these to us that do not have land bases yet, working on it, but still, hoping it comes through. There's just many of us. I know we have a promise of land base, but until it's in our name, I don't expect or wait for it to happen. I'm still sitting there, but I think the committee is pretty strong. And I think we're moving forward. And just to let you know that we don't always agree, but we're moving forward with what's important. So it's important that these committees exist. So that's just what I wanted to say, is that we're here, we're working on it. If anybody's going to complain, it's because they're not participating. So participate. Thank you.
You. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? So urban Indian, we have a question in the chat. Urban Indian means Native people who live in urban areas. And so it can be inclusive of people who were relocated from more rural areas where either their ancestral homelands are, but where the dominant population didn't choose to have a base, basically. Or it can be people who are indigenous to places that the dominant population did choose to create a base at. And so you've got both non-federally recognized tribes for the most part in a lot of these places, and people who were relocated because that's where the work was, that's where the federal government moved people to. And so it's just Native people who grew up in these urban spaces, who tend to have a lot of the same kind of experience. It'll be different if you're indigenous to that place, which we definitely recognize and needs to come as a priority. But it's also an experience where if you're a California Indian and you're relocated from your homelands, and it can bring up a lot of identity issues and visibility issues as well. So we're talking about people who, Native people who tend to live in places like urban San Diego, Los Angeles, Riverside, Sacramento, San Francisco, Fresno. And then Kathy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, Hilly. This is Kathy Corey, and most of you are on here know I've been participating in these meetings for about 3 years. I'm currently also on the subcommittee for status and identity. And as always, I am looking for support for a portion of our California Indian community that is desperately in need of services and resources, and that includes the people that are disenrolled from their tribes. There are thousands of California Indians now disenrolled from their tribes. There are disenrollments currently occurring both in Central California and in Northern California tribes. And this is going to impact the lives of families throughout Indian country in California in terms of loss of resources, loss of housing, loss of identity, which erodes the very spirit of our people, of who we are. So this is a very significant problem in California Indian country. And as always, I am here to advocate and try to have these issues addressed, because truthfully, this is the new genocide of our California Indian people. And we have to do better. This is a offshoot of the colonization that attempted to eradicate our people entirely. And it's a loss of Native community values and behaviors of what it really means to be Indian and take care of a community and be part of a community and preserve that culture, language, and most of all, people. So I just continue to, pray and try to do everything I can in order to make things better for all of our people, which includes not only the disenrolled, but those who are not in federally recognized tribes as well. So we're all much more similar than different in terms of atrocities our ancestors have suffered, the generational trauma that has continued to us today. And we need to do something and have some supports to fix that, because we are losing whole generations of people. Michigate.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions, anything you'd like to share?
I just put it in the comments. This is Joyce from the Pine Nation of San Isabel, that when discussing urban Indians, I just wanted to clarify that U.S. Federal Indian Relocation Act did not affect self-identifying ambiguous term users of Indigenous nor Native minus American. And I see where this government entity, Truth and Healing, is leaning towards the usage of those two ambiguous terms that the governor reinforced at San Diego State, and their Aztec identity and ownership of an entire continent. So Indigenous and Native are not synonymous with our legal and political names that this committee or this discussion is supposed to be regarding. That's all.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, opportunities for folks? I'll bring up an opportunity then. So part of why we changed the date of our November meeting is that there is an effort to have a California Native American parade in November in Sacramento. And so we've actually aligned it with that. We'll keep you all posted. It's still in process, I think, but is an effort by the California Native American Caucus and it is the caucus, right? That's been to create greater visibility, greater celebration of our people. So just sharing that as well. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Christina, this is Laurie. I just wanted, earlier you talked about recording our elders. Whether you choose to do this for the truth and healing, or if, consider doing it just for your own tribe or family. I am a councilwoman. While on this call, I got notification that we lost another tribal member. We're losing too many, but I don't know the family. They are urban. And I think every time I hear that we've lost someone, and I'm an elder, did we get their truth? It's something to consider once they're gone. If we haven't written down, listened carefully, shared, if they haven't shared their experiences with us, there's another piece of our history gone. We're here to honor and recognize how we got here. And that's such an important part. So I'm just appealing to everyone. If you don't want to do it for this, do it for yourself, do it for your children. It was heavy on my heart and I needed to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. I think especially important is that we're trying to battle this common understanding that there's, California, Native people lived here before the gold rush, before missions, and then they stopped, and that the people who are still here are something else, or that there's casinos and that's it. And I think really getting those experiences, getting those remembrances of our elders who are not that far removed from all of this is super critical. We have my great grandma, she was born in 1895, not that long after the Americans, got here. And so we're talking about generations of people who remember their grandparents and remember what it was like and can help share some of the changes they've seen and the changes that they've experienced and how they've approached the world differently and how we got here. We know that we have previous generations where it wasn't safe to say you were Indian. So you wanted to be invisible. And so how is that experience shaping, our lack of visibility now? And is it safe for us to be visible now? Is it more helpful for us to be visible? So I think having those conversations will create a richer record and a richer understanding, at least, if not for this process, at least for our own people, so that our future generations can understand how we got to this point. Councilmember Lucas. We can't hear you yet. I think you're trying to figure it out, but. If you do figure it out, we'll let you speak whenever you can figure out the unmute.
And I just texted Courtney, so she should be coming to help unmute. And one thing I wanted to share, even those elders in your life, even if they're for example, my dad, I have tried so hard to get him to record his story, and he's not up for it. But this last weekend when I was down there, we went through a couple photo albums, and I bought one of those little label makers on Amazon, and I just had him go through the pictures and write, tell me who is who. And of course, he's going to be 74 this year. So these were from the 70s. And so some of the labels say, Saboba guy, because he doesn't remember his name. But I think that's also really important too. If you have those photographs, sit down with your family and figure out who it is and label those so that it's just another piece of our history.
Well, I think we're finding in this process that we're finding connections from other people that we didn't know that we had. So other people will have photos of our people and we'll have stories from our people. And so I think a lot of this process is healing our relationships amongst each other, and realizing that we are a lot more connected than separated. And so Loretta, your example, I think is perfect and spot on. having an idea of who these people are can help connect you to those people and bring out more of that connection and healing. Councilmember Lucas, you are now off mute.
My apologies for being technologically ignorant, but if I touch anything here, it's going to go away for sure. A couple of things. I've been asking for this elders to please record the story. I don't care how you do it, just do it. And even if you don't like it, do it anyway, because it's so vital to the history of the California Indians. And I can't say that enough. The other thing, I do want to bring up the word indigenous. You've heard me say this before, but the more I'm hearing different conversations or presentations, there's more use of the word indigenous. I think that's a terrible road to go down on, and I think we're identifying ourselves as nothing except a big part of a group, where I honestly believe that we're all part of the human spirit. I think we all can learn from each other's cultures. I think it's terribly important, and the Truth and Healing Council has a subcommittee for identification, self-identification. So these things affect our psyche, whether we want to admit it or not. And I'm not a psychologist, so don't think I know what I'm talking about. It's just that I'm 89 come August, so hopefully I've learned something over the years about human nature, about self-esteem, and so these things are terribly important. And if you don't agree with me, it's all right. I don't mind that you don't agree with me. I think it's important that we pause and that we really think these things out for ourselves, rather than just being like sheep and following what everybody else is saying. The other thing I'd like to bring up is the gathering, the State Museum for California Indians. Where does that stand? I haven't heard anything recently. So if that sparks any future conversation, that's about as far as I can go today. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. The Indian Heritage Center has completed a big round of community input to refresh what was done about almost 20 years ago now. I'm just going to pull up the website so that I can share it with you all, because there's ongoing community engagement. And they're in the process of they're getting to the process of the design part. And so there is, here we go. So you can continue to participate in the discussion, but it's going to start moving toward what is governance, what is design, what does all of this look like? And then we'll start moving into the actual putting together the documents to start build and all of that. So we encourage all of you to engage with the process because we want to make sure that everybody has a voice in that space. Again, the project itself is a 10-year project, so we're probably about a third of the way through because of delays from COVID. But again, they'll be going into the next phase of it, which is that design part of the bigger space. And we're happy to keep you all informed on that as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we can provide updates in November once you guys are back in Sacramento too. Okay, so we're at 3 minutes before time. Does anyone have any final closing comments? Then maybe Kiana, could you close us out?
Yeah, so I was thinking, with with something like this, where we're bringing up a lot of feelings, I would do what's called a container exercise. This is something we do often when we do EMDR because it brings up a lot of emotions. So I thought would be fitting for here. So as we're sitting here together again, like before, get yourself comfortable, whatever that means to you, eyes open or closed, feet on the ground or tucked under you. Now I'd like you to think of a container. This container can be as big as Mother Earth or as tiny as a little seed bead. And I want you to reflect, or I invite you to reflect on what feelings are coming up for you that we may need to contain for a bit. Now, remember, we always welcome our feelings. I never want to tell people to hide or tuck away their feelings, but sometimes we need to do something to help us move about our day, right? And just think about these feelings that have come up for you. Is it a strong feeling of sadness, grief, maybe overwhelm, maybe frustration, maybe some sadness came in, whatever that strong feeling is. It might be a mix of all these different feelings together, which would, that would make perfect sense. And as you think about this, think about that perfect container. And we're going to contain these feelings. Imagine how you will put them in that container. And if you have trouble imagining things, you could even look at something around you and use that. You might put it through an open door of the container or open a lid and put it in there, maybe slide it through a little slot or a little crack in the container, just whatever feels right to you. So just allow the emotion to enter that container from whatever entry point felt right. When you feel it's all inside, just take a minute and close off that container. That might mean simply closing the lid. It might be covering it up with something strong and safe. Just sense the emotion being contained and take a minute and just notice what you feel in your body. And as you're noticing that, notice if there's anything else that needs to be contained to make you feel that that emotion is safe and contained. I invite you to put anything else in that container as well. And then offer that container an extra seal. You could put a lock on the door. You could have a little special guardian that watches over it. You could put it in a cave or a mountain. Whatever feels right to you. And when you feel it safely contained, and when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes if they were closed, stretch out your body, do whatever you need to do to bring you back into the present moment to prepare you to go about the rest of your day. Mano.
Jeffrey, thank you, Kiana. Very much appreciate your guidance today and closing us out in a good way. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, this will be uploaded in the near future, and hopefully we see some of you coming up in our next in-person convenings. And if you have anything that you'd like to share after the fact, feel free to email us at the email we provided before. Or if you'd like to set up a time to just chat on Zoom one-on-one, we're happy to do that as well. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care.
Carmen, I had a question for you. That's why I'm staying here.
What is it?
The Armijo that you mentioned, is
Oh,
it
yeah,
Ted?
yeah, Ted
Is it
Arnejo.
Ted?
Uh-huh.
That's my, so as I was talking to my dad and looking at my family tree, he is my like my great uncle.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a small world.
Yeah, he was on my Linton side. Um yeah, and I was just going through our whole family tree, and his mom actually was sent to Carlisle and then ended up working at a school in Arizona. And that's where he like started, I think, I don't know if he was born there, if he was born on the reservation, but when I asked my dad about him, he was like, oh yeah, he's a jewelry maker. And I was like, this is the same guy Carmen was talking about.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you, that yeah, I found out he's my great uncle.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. I think he's the man who brought my twin and I little bitty turtles. I know he came to visit us while we were in the incubators there at the Museum of Man for 6 months. Anyway, fond memories. Thank you.
Yeah, he lived across the street from me. Well, I don't know if when I was born, but the Arnejos, their property is across the street from mine on the reservation. So my dad was like, yeah, that's where they were, and he would always have jewelry, and so it was pretty cool.
Right. Okay. Are there any of his offsprings alive, or any of the family still around?
My dad doesn't think that he had children. He didn't have children, did he?
I don't know. I didn't know him that well.
Yeah, my dad he doesn't think that he had children. And then on our little family tree, I'm going through, there's a website with the records from, I think it's kind of like based with the Mormon church, like they have a lot of the records, and he doesn't have any lines coming off of him, and so I don't think he has any children.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's good to hear. Thank you.
I'll let you know if I come across any pictures of him while I'm going through all my dad's photo albums.
Okay. Your eyes open. Thank you.
Loretta,
Thank you.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's the next steps with that Jake Kornbluth guy, and when's the next time we're gonna see him, and what's going on with whatever on the ranch?
So he is currently on vacation for about a month. And so
wow, he gets so much.
So he's offline a bit until I think the end of the month or early next month. And then he'll be joining us at the other quarterly meetings. It'll take him some time definitely to go through all of the footage and the recordings, and so yeah, it'll be a while.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And it was so good seeing you, and I'm so happy I did not spread my germs to you guys. So I'm happy that you guys did not get sick. And yeah, really good to see you.
Well, glad you're feeling better.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Bye.